Hi, I'd like to welcome everybody to the next digital literacy lesson. We're here with Mr. Peterson today because we're going to talk about cyberbullying and some other legal issues. And Mr. Peterson is actually our resident expert on legal issues for the administration. He focused real heavily on that as he was taking his administrative classes. So as we get started, one of the things that we want to start off talking about is actually copyright. Just to give you an idea, University of Texas Libraries kind of gives us some examples of what things can be copyrighted, and that can be anywhere from poetry to software applications, artwork, some recorded music, songs we're used to. Includes all the way up to some things that maybe we haven't thought about before, like web pages and blog posts. And one of the things that I like to really focus on that people forget about are photographs. Now, with photographs, keep in mind, if you take a picture yourself, you don't have to do anything to get that picture copyrighted. So if you use your picture on a website and somebody else uses it without permission, that is copyright infringement. So once you actually post that photo somewhere, there's no special form to fill out. It is actually automatically copyrightable. Okay, now we've looked at this from the don't do it perspective, and a lot of things we're going to talk about today are going to be from the victim perspective. We are going to have some information in there as we go through things where we do talk about the consequences for somebody who does violate whatever it is, if it's cyberbullying or copyright in this case. But for the most part, we're going to kind of put it from the victim perspective because you haven't heard that from us before, and we want to make sure that you see both sides. So if you look at copyright penalties, if somebody steals your photo or steals your work, whatever that may be, not only is this something that they can get in trouble with as far as having to pay a fine, there is jail time that can be associated with that in some extensive cases. There are penalties, could be from a $200 to a $150,000 fine. This is some information that we kind of compiled from Purdue University, so they kind of helped us out when we looked at the website. Most of the time, however, what will happen is if somebody infringes on copyright, the legal system will be started. The lawyers will ask the infringer to stop doing it. So they'll put an injunction on it. They might even take those illegal works and impound them. So they'll start there and then they'll work up. So if they're not getting satisfaction, then they kind of work up the chain. So our best option is, if we have something that's copyrighted and we want to use it, the best option is to get permission from the copyright owner. Now, that's not always possible. Especially if we're doing it for a school project, there might be a timeline that we have to worry about. The other possibility might be that we can't track down the owner. Mm-hmm. So you go to option 2, which would be to use Creative Commons. Now, I'm hoping you've heard Creative Commons before in your English classes, history classes maybe. You have the ability to do a search in Creative Commons. You can check in with your teachers on how to do that. Creative Commons licensing, remember, just to refresh your memory, allows for the owner of the object, whatever it may be, to put a license on there that you can use that depending on the type of Creative Commons license they use, where it might be just giving attribution. It might be that they say you can use it, but not if you're a business. You can use it, but you cannot modify it, or you can use it, but you can't make money off of it. So it depends on the type of Creative Commons license. And the third option and best option for us would be use public domain media. So find something that's public domain. You don't have to worry about the licensing. Mm-hmm. Here at Pleasant Plains High School, we're going to make sure that we still give credit. We still give attribution, even if it's public domain, because we're going to be good digital citizens. We're going to do the right thing. Okay, with that said, that copyright infringement, I'm going to lead that in. Mr. Peterson is going to talk to us a little bit more and kind of lead that into digital cheating, plagiarism, those kind of things that copyright kind of falls into.
Yeah, when it comes to cheating, as many of you know, with today's devices, it's very easy for cheating to take place using cell phones, other similar devices. When using the device and you receive a text message that has answers to a test or a quiz or something along that lines, you are at that point in your stage of receiving that message of still innocent from cheating. It's from that point on that'll dictate whether you are innocent or whether you're going to end up being viewed as being guilty in the process of cheating. The way that's looked at is what your actions are from that point. If you open up your text message and you received a test, quiz, answers, anything of that sort that you know is not right, and you open it up, from that point on, if you do not notify a teacher, administrator, somebody in the school that you have received this, and just hold it to yourself, at that point right there, you are now considered guilty of cheating. You are knowingly holding information about tests, answers, quizzes, things of that sort, and knowingly not sharing that information. Again, if you do not ask for it, you don't want to be viewed as cheating, then the right thing to do, and the thing that's going to definitely keep you from being viewed as guilty of cheating, is to notify a teacher, a counselor, whatever adult in the school immediately through email. If you get this message, text message at night, it's 8, 9 o'clock at night, you have our email addresses. Email us immediately, and then we know for sure that you are good to go. Now, what we ask though is you don't delete that text message or email or whatever it is that you receive digitally. Save that digital form. That way we can reference it. From that point on, we're going to bring you in, we'll talk to you, we'll ask you where you received that information, and then it's up to you whether you want to share it or not, where you gather that information from. But if you don't let us know, then you are guilty. If you don't open it up and you knowingly forward it on to somebody else, that is also considered cheating. You are passing on information that you know should not be passed on. So again, these are some things that people normally do that kind of puts themselves in a bad situation in regards to digital cheating.
So Mr. Peterson, just to clarify, I get a text message from one of my friends or somebody I know who sends the answers to an assignment or a test or whatever it may be. I get it. If I don't want to be in trouble, I'm the victim, I didn't want it.
Yep.
If I don't want to get in trouble, then I take a screenshot of it.
Yep.
Okay. And then after I take a screenshot, then I email you or Mr. Brooks.
Yep.
Immediately, right
or
then.
the teacher.
And that way they know that I got this, whatever it was, and I didn't want it.
At that time.
I don't want to get in trouble. Okay. And then they can do whatever they need to do on their end.
Now,
if I don't want to tell you the next day who sent that to me, that's my
your
call.
Choice. Mm-hmm.
But if I do want to, because I think this is something that it's not cool, it's not right, then I have that option as well.
Correct.
Okay.
And then also, if you receive that message, you open it up, but you don't email us until the next day, there is a possibility that you'll be viewed as cheating also, because you've had a lot of hours in which you could have looked it over, passed it on to other people. There's just a huge frame of time there that's of unknown, which obviously for us, it puts us in a bad spot of what you did with it. So
you don't know if I looked at it or if I passed it on some other way. Okay.
So again, that's why we say email us or text us immediately. If you hold off and wait till the following day, there is a possibility you could still be viewed as in the category of cheating.
We talked earlier about plagiarism and how significant that is. And middle school students, plagiarism was kind of that don't do it, slap on the wrist kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
High school, it's a lot more serious. And do me a favor, talk to me about high school and beyond, how serious plagiarism can be.
Plagiarism is very serious. Here at the high school, the consequences can range anywhere from a 0 on that assignment to in school suspension or whatever. It's on a case by case reviewed as. Beyond high school and college, the consequences are even bigger. When I was going through for my master's program, I had a gentleman that was in the program with me. Getting towards the end of it, only had 1 or 2 classes left. Professor caught them plagiarizing. He was kicked out of the program, so he was not able to finish his master's degree out all that money. On a professional side, on careers, Naperville, I think it was about 9-10 years ago, the principal at Naperville gave a speech. He plagiarized part of his speech. He took from a student's speech, did not give credit to that student when he gave the speech, and it was later revealed that he plagiarized, and he was fired from his position for just plagiarizing. So plagiarizing, as you go up, the ladder in your age, the consequences increase exponentially.
And that is one of the reasons why we want to make sure that we get it right in high school, so we figure out how to do it. If you have any questions on giving proper citations, make sure you're checking in with your teachers. Remember, it's a 2-part system. You have the bibliography citation and the parenthetical inline citations. They have to work together. It's not one or the other. It's a combination part. If you're looking at MLA with your English classes, make sure you're checking in with those teachers. If you're looking at APA with the history classes, check in with those teachers.
Yeah.
Make sure you're getting it right.
When in doubt, always give credit. Can't
Awesome.
go wrong.
With that, I'm going to let Mr. Peterson kind of segue into our next level of where you can be victimized by cyberbullying and those kind of things.
When it comes to cyberbullying, if people are making fun of you online, whether it's through some type of social media, whether it's Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, whatever, we here at the school and as school officials, we have to address that immediately when it's brought to our attention. Through state laws now, we have to address it even if it's outside of school time. If someone sends something to you through social media and it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, and you bring it to me on Monday morning that somebody in the school is saying inappropriate things about you, there's consequences that can come with that. We legally have to address it. So we always go through with all the students at the beginning of the year and talk about making sure you're treating each other with respect. You don't have to like everybody, but you do have to treat everyone with respect. And if not, well, we will have to address it, and the consequences are huge. If you are a victim who's being bullied through social media, it kind of goes along the same lines as digital cheating. We ask that you take a snapshot, a screenshot of what was sent to you or what you received, and then let us know immediately, either Mr. Brooks, myself, one of the counselors, Mrs. Shaver, or Mr. Lucas, or any teacher here at school that you're comfortable with. And then from there, we will follow up on how to handle it. And, again, with that kind of stuff, it's a case by case as far as how we address it. It might be just through verbal reprimand, or it could lead to out of school suspensions, which we have done because of this. There's not a lot of tolerance in our society for this type of behavior. We expect everyone to treat each other with respect here, and when it comes to bullying, there's a lot of different categories that we address. It could be, religion, age, your sex, sexual orientation, a lot of different areas that this could apply to. So anytime somebody says things to you that's uncomfortable, you need to let us know. And again, there comes that fine line of what's the difference between, bullying or harassing and teasing. And, you need to know where that line is.
Right. And that's a good discussion point, the difference between teasing and bullying. Typically, we think of teasing as both sides are having fun. The person who's being teased and the person who is teasing. It's playful. We find that it stops becoming teasing and moves over into the hurtful, harmful part when the person being teased says, "Stop, I'm done." If that happens and it continues, it has become hurtful. That's where it moves into bullying. So we have to remember that line. And the other thing that's really important, I've talked to Mr. Peterson about this before, a lot of times it's not necessarily the victim who comes forward to say, hey, I'm
Yep.
being bullied, I'm being harassed, or I'm being intimidated. A lot of times it's somebody else who was around that area.
Yeah, in our school, I was talking to some students the other day. Last week, right before school, I had 3 different students come up to me about an issue and made me aware of it. And they weren't the offender and they weren't the victim. They were part of, just witnessing what was happening, and they were not good with it, and they let me know. And fortunately, here at Pleasant Plains, our students are very good about when they see things that aren't happening. They don't have a lot of patience for that, and they either say, to the person who's the offender to stop, or a lot of times they let myself know. They're very comfortable with that, and then we address it, and we address it very quickly. If it is happening to you, that's the other thing, whether it's through verbal or through cyber, harassment, bullying, whatever. The sooner you let us know, the easier it is for us to address that issue and help bring it to an end. The longer you let it carry on, the harder it is, and the longer it takes to bring that to a stop. So again, if this is happening to you, you need to let somebody know right away.
Right, and I think that's the big message I want to make sure everybody knows out there. Have your responsible adult who is going to be your go-to person. So think right now, who is that? If you have one, I want you to kind of think that through, who it is, how you're going to talk to that person. If you don't have that responsible adult, think it through right now and figure out who it's going to be. That's going to be extremely important. For any of your situations where you might need help, that's valuable. Have that person you can go to. With that said, we're going to move into a very sensitive area. This is something where obviously you've been told to don't do it, but we don't usually talk the other side. What if you are, again, the victim? You are the receiver, or if this directly happens to you. So I'm going to let Mr. Peterson talk about what happens with inappropriate postings.
Yeah. It's going to sound kind of redundant. It's pretty much similar to the rest of what we talked about earlier. When something's sent to you that's inappropriate, whether it's sexting, pornography, some type of inappropriate language, whatever that's sent to you and you're not comfortable with it and you're not okay with it, you need to let an adult know right away here at school, somebody that you're comfortable with. You also need to take a screenshot of whatever it is that you received. Do not send that to anybody because that puts the person who's receiving it in a bad situation also, and we don't want to do that. Whether I don't want to receive pornography, but I want you to have a screenshot of it, so that way when you come to Mr. Brooks or myself, we've got something to reference to see how to address the issue.
Definitely. And remember, when we ask you to do a screenshot, that's big, because if it's something that was done on the internet, we don't need it to be your word against somebody else's. If it disappears from that site at that moment, we need to have that screenshot as evidence just to show us, hey, this is what happened. So show us your screenshot of your phone and say, this is what I'm worried about. Again, you're not going to text it or email it or forward it on to anybody. You're just going to have it in case it disappears from that site at that moment. Okay.
And again, like I said, it's the same steps. Screenshot it, bring it to us, let us know. The sooner you let us know, the quicker we can get a handle on the situation and help you get yourself into a better position and address that ill behavior and correct it as quickly as possible.
There is a huge step that I also want everybody to be aware of. Whether it is anything with an inappropriate post or cyberbullying on a post or anything like that, don't respond. That is huge. Do not respond. You guys have all seen the trolls that are in the comment section, and we know what happens if you respond. The troll will take it a step further. They'll push it. They'll try to get you angry. They'll try to get you to do more responses so they can play it out and make it worse. So instead of responding, please make sure you go to that responsible adult. Do me an extra favor. Don't let the responsible adult respond online.
Correct.
Because that will complicate things.
Yep.
Not just with the troll getting angry and playing it out more. but it will also complicate things legally. So if we do not continue that communication discussion, whatever it may be online, that makes it easier for the legal process to do their job.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate Mr. Langley bringing that up because, again, I've had it a number of times where the victim all of a sudden starts to respond, and then they put themselves in a bad situation where consequences can go their way because they let their emotions get the better of them and respond inappropriately, and again, it just doesn't go well. So again, I'm just going to reiterate what Mr. Langley said. Do not respond because that's what they're wanting. A lot of times they're wanting to get a response out of you, and so by not responding, you're kind of being a wet blanket on their fire there. So
one of the things that Mr. Peterson talked to me about the other day is there are some of these cases that it does warrant. Administrators are obligated, in fact, to take it to the police. They're obligated to report it. Now, when it goes to police, he was telling me that there are some instances where there have been cases in the past, especially it happened here at Pleasant Plains, where somebody thought something was anonymous and was bullying somebody anonymously, they thought. I want him to talk about that and let people know that just because you post something from a so-called anonymous site, it's not untraceable.
Yeah. Again, Mr. Langley made reference to a situation we had a number of years ago where we had a student that was using a site where he thought he was going to be anonymous. We wouldn't be able to follow it back, and he made some very serious threats. When it gets to that level, I legally have to turn it over to the county sheriff, who then followed up with the state police, FBI, and they were able to trace it back to the student, which then received some pretty heavy consequences, obviously. So Mr. Langley's spot on when he says, nothing is anonymous. It's just a matter of whether it's really worth the time, the effort for the police and stuff. And in those types of situations, they will follow through. But please don't put yourselves in those situations just because, again, you think it's anonymous and you feel safe that you can attack people. It's something that can be traceable, and it's not right. Again, we're pretty good about our students here being respectful of one another, and that's the kind of things we want to keep fostering here at our school.
Awesome. We definitely thank you for your time. This video ran a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but there was such a wealth of information that we wanted to pass on to you. Very serious conversation for this digital literacy lesson. We appreciate you viewing it and sticking with us through it all. Ultimately, our goal is to make everybody better digital citizens. So do us the favor, make sure that you are a good digital citizen, make sure you're looking out for each other, and making sure that if somebody is not being appropriate, that you do the right thing, you help us out, and make sure that it is taken care of before it becomes a catastrophe.
And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact Mr. Langley or myself via email or in person, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions on any of the many things that we kind of touched lightly on today.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.